evening, villains. If you're here for the first time, I'm making a villain protagonist game, referred to by my co-conspirators as the Sauron Simulator. It's a real-time strategy game with colony and progression elements. It's been a while since my last video. I was moving homes, as villains often do, but now I'm here to tell you about the big changes I've made since then. When you tell your minions to do something so that multiple minions wouldn't steal jobs from each other, I had a behavior where they would occupy something so you didn't end up with guys trying to, pick up the same resource off the ground, or they didn't walk to a piece of wood on the ground that was no longer there because someone picked it up. I mean, it might sound good, but in practice it would result in a lot of your guys walking around in a group with only one of them actually being useful. I guess maybe that might be thematic, but it would probably mystify the player rather than appear like a deliberate thematic inefficiency.
Why not turn everything into garbage? A great towering mountain of slop!
Now I made it so when your minions stop doing whatever they're currently doing, for any reason, they deoccupy their target, so someone else can pick it up later. I made your minions autonomous, so now if they get attacked, even without your explicit command, they will fight back against their attackers. Also, when they mark the tree or building that they were going to be the ones to work on it, now they unmark it, so this is what I was talking about before. So if they get interrupted, for example by combat, that job basically gets freed up for anyone else to pick it up. Now when I was doing these autonomous behavior, initially I tried to make them detect in the sphere around themselves using a collider within Unity. But they already use a collider to detect when you hover over them. There was some rigmarole to get it to work, and I did, but then just before I got to the finish line, ChatGPT, my trusted advisor, told me that the mouse-click camera-based raycasting that I use does not respect layers. And the only fix is to either cook your own or try something else. I ended up doing this bicycle raycast ring around them instead, which should in theory perform better anyway, since just a few rays rather than a three-dimensional shape. And they are once a second rather than real time. What this means is that your creatures won't always detect enemies far away, as they might be between the spokes of this wheel. I will probably adjust the degrees of the spokes based on stats. For example, if a minion is a better scout, the spokes might be closer together, so they're more likely to see an enemy from further away. Likewise, not having a 3D shape now means that your minions won't see enemies behind a wall, or a rock, for example, which is great. A negative is that if your enemy is flying, they won't see them at all because they never look up. But that's a problem for another day, and I can probably solve that by shooting rays upwards. To make combat feel a bit more urgent, I made minions start running once they get into combat or find an enemy. It took me a while to get this to work because there's a lot of places where something wasn't quite happening correctly. I won't bore you with the details, but when I finally got it to work for the first time, it did look quite amusing and silly. I noticed a few issues where the goblins would finish moving but get pushed away from their position and stop the walking animation, and instead they just start the idle animation and continue moving, which creates some amusing but not quite correct results. They also can accidentally push each other off the map, which also is not really ideal. Another thing that bugged me was the animation blending in animations. I was using Unity's default animator, which is notorious for being lacking in a lot of features.
That is one big pile of shit.
And once it grows to a certain size, it's hard to maintain and do complex things with it that people don't expect as a given. For example, walking while attacking. Okay, now how about starting to walk, then running and then stopping running, and attacking at the same time, and also reacting to being hit by an arrow. You need animation blending for this, and Unity's animator doesn't really give you the good tools to do this effectively, so I downloaded something called Animancer. And Animancer turned out to be a great plugin, but unfortunately I had baked into my project in various places a lot of serialized references to animations using custom extensions of structs that were serialized by Odin and displayed in Node Canvas. Anyway, by switching these to enums, it just broke a lot of my stuff, and the Unity would not re-import, recompile, whatever it needs to do to unscrew my assets, so I had to roll back and lost 2 days of progress trying to make a step forward. I wrote a bit of code that blended one layer with another to display injuries as an animation blend on top of whatever else they're doing, but without disrupting my base layer's animation, which are sort of tied into the state of the minion themselves, whereas the injured animation is purely cosmetic. It doesn't fire events of any kind, and being stunned doesn't stop you from attacking, even if it looks like it does. I might change that in the future, but it's good enough for now, and I'm not sure that being stun locked from attacking would be fun, even if it is more realistic.
Fight back! Fight back!
Besides injuries, to add more impact to combat, I have these blood splats, which I've had for a long time, but they had some issues with them where they would not project onto the ground after the blood splat happened. So I ended up fixing that, but the fix required me to change the camera to perspective, which makes the game look more like an RPG again rather than RTS. I guess it's not the end of the world, and maybe some people would even prefer that, but it was a sacrifice that was necessary to get those satisfying bloody battlefields at the end of a big fight. After all my changes, I can organize big proper battles, which look and feel pretty satisfying and mesmerizing to watch. There's only a few things left to do before my game will be playable, so stick around for my Steam page coming up soon. If you'd like things to go faster, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll use the money from donations to hire additional freelancers to do odd jobs here and there, freeing up my time to do stuff I cannot outsource. Thank you for sticking around and watching the entire video. It really helps me, and it would help me even more if you leave me a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the combat and any other thoughts that you have to share. And I look forward to having you join me in the next video. Before we go, I want to give a quick shout out to my bro Code for Broke, whose YouTube channel really inspired me to create the one that I have now. I have been working on my game for many years, and I had no idea what to make videos about for it until I saw Code for Broke's channel, and he's been really helpful and giving me a lot of really kind of mentorship kind of advice about how to do my own YouTube for this. So I really owe a lot of the success that I've had so far with the channel to him, really.